The Boston bombing trial will resume Monday, giving jurors a break after hearing emotional and sometimes gruesome testimony from survivors. They detail the minutes before and after the explosions, including emotional testimony from an 8-year-old victim's father, describing having to leave his son, his dying son, so he could help his 2 other children. Now, this coming after the defense for Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, during opening statements, bluntly admitted that Tsarnaev committed the 2013 attack with his brother. Here to talk about this is David Schwartz. He's a defense attorney and former prosecutor. And Robert Bianchi is here, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor and trial attorney. Great to have both of you. Robert, I'm going to start with you on this one because, listen, you know, there's going to be 2 phases of this, the guilty or not phase. But we know he's guilty. So the question that everybody's asking, why do you have to put these jurors through that? The victims mainly, pardon me, the victims hearing that is hard on the jurors, but it's especially hard on the victims and their families. Is it to try to get this guy life in prison as opposed to the death penalty?
This is a brilliant strategic move by the defense. I've handled death penalty cases myself as a prosecutor, defense murder cases as a defense lawyer. What they're trying to do is establish a reputation and a rapport with the jury first off. Then secondly, start to work in their death penalty phase litigation themes through this particular area at this point in time in the guilt phase. But most importantly, what they're trying to do is create appellate issues. And there's already a plethora of appellate issues that have occurred, both with the change of venue, not so much, but with the evidentiary rulings that have occurred. The judges,
what? He didn't do it?
Yeah, but you see what happens is if he gets convicted of the death penalty, they're going to go back to the guilt phase. She did not give up the guilt phase. And if the judge made any evidentiary rulings, and already I believe some evidentiary rulings have been made, it could reverse the entire trial. Start again. It's about,
and then put everybody through this crappy, you know, week of horrible, horrendous, ear-wrenching, heart-wrenching, hard on your ears, you know, testimony. Why?
One appealable issue right off the bat, I think we could all agree, is when every single juror on that jury says that the defendant, we think he's guilty, but we'll keep an open mind. Right there alone, that's absolutely appealable. You have to have, at least in the most horrific cases. I think everyone agrees this is a horrific case, but you still need a fair and impartial.
Why? What's the point?
Because you can't have a jury that says to you before the case even starts. Okay, so
where are you going to find anybody in the United States of America who's not going to be put the guy in jail, put him under the jail?
I think it's a major issue. That's a major appealable issue.
Yeah, this happens where, and they're expected to follow the judge's instructions. But what's occurred right now is the judge has limited the defense already in certain areas and given the prosecution a lot of evidence in the guilt phase of this trial that typically most defendants would not have to be dealing with. So that's a major issue. Some of the rulings the judge has already made. What you have to understand in a death penalty litigation for a defense attorney, it's about keeping him alive, keeping him alive for another hour, keeping it alive for 2 hours, 3 hours, and if you can create appellate issues that tie it up in the courts for 10 years, the defense looks like that was a success. If you could do it for 20 years or 30 years, it's even more of a success. And the defense attorney is doing a brilliant job of creating a record for possible reversal down the road.
Well, I think also the defense...
Wait, reversal of what?
Reversal of a conviction if evidence came in during the guilt phase that should not have come in, which has already occurred. Look, I was a prosecutor. I used to train my assistant prosecutors when they were handling cases. Be careful, prosecutors. They need to watch out. Don't fall into the trap of putting too much victim impact testimony in the guilt phase of this case, or you're going to get this case reversed.
I don't think the case is going to get reversed, but the bottom line is I do think the defense attorney is doing a brilliant job. She's not cross-examining anyone right now. She's not cross-examining these witnesses. She's completely setting up this case to keep this guy alive, and that's what it's all about. So to answer your original question, certainly the defense is using the guilt and innocence phase towards the death penalty phase, and clearly putting in the argument that it was the older brother that was forcing him to do all this. And so that argument is going to resonate throughout. So this is a horrific case, and it has to be dealt with in the death penalty phase.
But the prosecutors want this guy to stay in jail for the rest of his life and think about what he did. He doesn't deserve to die.
Is that what well, I think the prosecutors are going to go after the death penalty. But
yeah.
Maybe
But
that's just me injecting my own personal thing. I'm not objective on this.
I think a lot of people agree with you, though, that may be a worse punishment than death. There's certainly an argument to be made.
In fact, in death penalty litigation, there will be an expert who will testify that spending a life sentence is much more horrific than a death penalty sentence. And be careful with one thing. The more that defendant is in front of that jury and more he's humanized in front of that jury in the guilt phase, moving into the penalty phase, the much harder it is for people to push the button and execute him. And I've witnessed that personally myself. Brilliant tactical move by the defense.
It's a good move. I'm not sure how much he's going to be humanized in this case, but certainly the argument may resonate that he was influenced by the older brother and then therefore his life should be spared.
Exactly.
Gotta go. Okay. Sorry, I got a little emotional. I'm not objective. Sorry, I'm not, but there it is. David and Robert, thanks to both of you.
Pleasure.
Eric.